Hello and welcome to the Horror Academic. Are we here? Are people here? Am I here? Let's see. I know there's a delay, so I'm waiting to see if I show up. There I am. Okay, so you guys can maybe see me, but it's very choppy. Let's see. Okay, I will be right back. Which isn't a Scream joke, but it could be. Okay, I do believe we are live.
Hey, it worked.
Oh, there you are. Now I can hear you. The world will see us in a second. We have a delay.
Yeah.
But once it catches up in the picture and the video, catch up with us.
Okay.
Hey, okay, cool. People can see us.
All right, it worked.
And the stream is now all of a sudden great. Sorry for this delay, everybody. I was getting error messages that the stream was not high enough quality to send. I don't know why. And Allie was having some audio issues on her end.
Yeah.
Well, at least it sounded good on her end, but I couldn't hear her. So I was a little, we were a little worried. But
a bummer.
It's all come together.
I see a delay for YouTube. Okay.
There is always going to be a delay on YouTube. So
okay.
We cannot, it's easier for us to not look too much at what we see on the screen. But I can see Lisa in chat.
Yay, hey Lisa.
In chat.
Hey, we got friends.
Speaking of friends, okay, I should do this the proper way. Welcome to the Horror Academic. I am Victoria, the Horror Academic. With me tonight is Alison Hope Ferrara, and we are a woman down, I hate to say.
I know, bummer.
There was a last moment emergency, and Melissa from the Brook Reading Podcast is not with us. Hopefully, I'm very hopeful that she may be able to tune in with us a little later. So yes. We still hope to hear from her. But all that being said, welcome to the Horror Academic. This is our first live of the new year. Happy 2021. But I was thinking February is the month of Women in Horror Month, which has been going on for quite a while now. And I thought this was a great opportunity for us to talk a little bit of women in horror.
Oh, yeah.
So, okay. Let's...
We're here.
All right. We're here. It worked.
It did.
I even got us some graphics so touch down and go, there.
And I felt so terrible. I love it. Yeah, no, I'm checking that out. I was trying to... You've got a great close-up. I was trying to see...
I'm always too close.
Hey, look,
I'm always too close. Oh, hey, we'll check out the dress.
Hey, Betsy Johnson.
Yay.
Hey,
not sponsored, but that would be nice.
No. Hey, cool. Free stuff. No.
I'm trying for the Fright Rag sponsorship over
Oh
here
yeah,
with
see,
their
here we go.
Halloween
I know
2018.
we both have our. I like that. We both have our. Let me talk about a little drag stuff right
There
here,
you
real
go.
quick.
We will take
People,
sponsorships from all of these people because we love all of you.
I was gonna say, people we love notice us because
Yes.
we're here for you.
Give us money. See these Blu-rays over here?
I was gonna
You can
say,
see the Blu-rays. A lot of these are Scream Factory. Just saying.
oh,
I've done
another
a lot of
one.
episodes about Scream Factory.
That's
So
right. You do cover
that
them
is
a bunch.
like, yes, that is my
You're a big
dream.
proponent of their releases.
I'm selling your discs, man. All right. So, okay, let's chill and let's. How have you been? It's been a moment.
It has been a moment. I'm okay, plodding through and then trying to. It's funny, always coming from me when I say I'm trying to be positive because I know I'm not Little Mary Sunshine. I'm usually funny but not happy. There was something that Henry Rollins said once that I always loved. And he said, if I'm going to be something all the time besides alive, I'd rather be funny than happy. And that was something that I kind of took to heart. And I was like, oh, I get that. I don't think I'm like a grumpy mess, but I'm trying to see a hopefully better, bigger picture because I'm still trying to find a new job since I'm jobless still. But we're still that gave me more time to do research and talk about all this stuff, so I was happy for that. Did my camera just go crazy?
I think it just dropped. Yeah, I was just gonna say.
Holy mackerel! Okay, that's better.
All right, that's better. That's better. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
All right.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think any of us thought we would still be in the situation that we're in. The year of living in all the Romero films at once, and it wasn't as fun as I thought it would be.
I know all the sci-fi were like, this is cool, right? No.
Yeah. Pandemic does not mean you get to go out and slay zombies. It just means you get to sit at home all the time.
Yeah, I'll say the good thing besides doing normal daily stuff and working on that is being able to watch more television and movies. Because it's well, you have to, and especially because we've gotten piles of snow here and in like downstate New York, and also by you.
Yeah, we have quite a bit still too.
You can't go outside even if you were supposed to or you wanted to. Yeah, and then there's been some good concerts and live shows, which has been exciting to see.
I will say, there's been a lot of step up in the world to give us content always. So I appreciate that a lot.
Shout out to the Bowie tribute show that we...
Oh, yes. That was wonderful.
Guys, and then also Lisa, who's watching, our sweet friend, that we all attended together over the weekend of his passing. That was amazing and gorgeous. Yes. And I know they shot that in a pandemic way, a pandemic safe way, where I love that they had different performers in different sections, and then some people were on movie screens, people were in maybe different sites, parts of that stage, or besides they were just coming in, through something like this. And it was seamless. Yeah, I was impressed. I know it had to take a lot of work for them to coordinate that.
They had some technical difficulties too, so
it's okay.
But everyone's rolling with it.
Yeah, but it was and I could see the future of that stuff for as long as this is our future, kind of.
Yeah,
it worked out really well. I watched the stream of Lazarus, so I got to finally see that, and that was cool. So I'm for it. And, if that's the way concerts and Broadway shows are going to be, and they could do that for us, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I'm wondering how long it's going to take for us to get Broadway that way. But we've been enjoying.
Yes, that they have filmed things, and I just need.
I know. Just a little bit of that's been coming out, but we need more.
Lazarus there. Yeah, exactly. If we could get more, or the way that they filmed Hamilton, which was amazing, gorgeous. Yeah. And it was
luckily already well into the works, so that it worked out fine that they could re-release early. Right. But it was a bit of kismet that happened, and it took the world by storm.
It sure did. It was the way that I guess a lot of us watched it, because we couldn't get tickets or couldn't get or afford tickets when it was rolling on, it's in the theater.
Yeah, I mean, I will say we have had almost every weekend some form of live music that we've been taking in, be it DJ sets or bands, or we listen to a lot of nerdcore and a lot of gamer music, some chiptune shows out there. I mean, there's been a lot of great content. The world is kind of responding in a way, and I love that. And it's
like
given
me with my drag shows.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say it's giving everybody a new chance to extra shine, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
So all for all of that. And I will, to end on a horror note with this, I will say that I did enjoy the Bruce Campbell's live commentary on The Evil Dead.
That's so cool, yeah.
Which was so fun. And full of stories I never heard. And oh my God, I am one of the world's biggest Evil Dead fans. And I was like, you have stories I don't know? How did this happen?
If you learn something, that's a huge deal. If you learn something from Bruce, because I almost feel like you know him at this point for as long as you.
I've seen it so many times.
Yeah, for the times that you've seen and for as long as you've watched it. I mean, I've met him twice with you. You've probably met him more than that, and I know you talked to him. You interviewed him, didn't you?
I didn't get to interview him. I was lined up to interview him, and he was in an accident and didn't go to the convention he was supposed to be at. So that was fate saying, nope, you're not interviewing Bruce. Right. But no, I got to see him, I guess at least a half a dozen times.
Okay, yeah. So
more. Yeah.
I never thought I'd get two, and that was cool. So yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. And I mean, so that was great. Yeah.
The second time we met him, it was with you and Keith at the book signing, and we had gone clubbing that night before, and we were tired, but we still got up and did that. And I told him, I said we were at a club. I was like, me and my friends back here, and he goes, "What? Those two knuckleheads?" Because he had to be like all snarky. And Bruce, I'm like, yeah, we got home at like 3 a.m. Then we woke up and did this for you.
We're here.
Like, he's like, oh, you guys are crazy.
We saw both of the book tours because we stumbled into him.
Nice.
It was the day I went for orientation when I was going for my master's.
I love that.
Keith was killing time in the city. He ended up just going to Barnes and Noble. And I mean, I shouldn't be telling his story for him, but he's not here.
It's okay.
And he's like, who's talking so loud at Barnes and Noble? I'm just trying to read my magazine.
Stumbled like he had no idea.
Yes, he walked past all the signs that said live today, Bruce Campbell.
Of course. Oh my God. Of course he did.
And then luckily, and if we had cell phones back then, it wasn't like we were texting. So it wasn't like...
Right, of course.
So, I mean, I know I just had... It was like, okay, plan to meet him there. And I remember going up the thing, and he's like online with books for both of us. Like,
he's like, so this happened just now. So Bruce Campbell's here real quick. And you're like, what the hell?
I got there just in time to get my book signed. It was awesome.
That's perfect.
And we've... There's just so many great occasions, and I gotta do a whole Evil Dead extravaganza at some point on this show because I've just done Army of Darkness.
Should. Oh.
I'm working on it. I will say that because of how much I love the film and because of how much I try to maintain the show being about like Blu-rays that are well worth your money.
Why you should invest in physical media still.
And I will say I was so disappointed by the Evil Dead Blu-ray that has nothing. It's like...
It doesn't, does it?
It's just movie. I mean, it looks good. It sounds great. But that's not enough. So
where's all the fun?
Where's all the stuff they already own that's on 500 other discs that I own?
Exactly.
So I'll give you guys a little horror academic, a little spoiler, a little cheese, a little extra here. I ordered the British edition so that I'll have something to review in the future. So,
and you can switch. Your players have that.
I have PAL. I always buy a cracked machine so it has a PAL converter in it.
Secrets. I love it.
That's how I get to watch everything.
See the horror academic secrets.
This is what you got to know.
Yeah.
So we should jump
off the back of a truck or
no, it came out of a factory in probably China. I don't know.
Gotcha. That's the same thing. Okay.
But there's like you used to have to get a Blu-ray player with codes. You'd have to press a code in for the right region, and you have to press a code for the PAL. And nowadays it's just like, poop, we put a little chip in and it does it all. And I'm like,
because I'm finding that issue. I know I'm veering off with a lot of my British comedy.
Oh yeah,
that I want to buy, but it wasn't released here.
Yep.
And I'm just I'm getting Amazon, cranky about it.
Amazon.uk I have done. I
Yeah.
have done, there's on eBay, I've found a lot of things that are PAL region that play fun. I have in my Doctor Who collection, I'm pointing, but you guys probably
There
can't
you
see
go.
that far over.
Yeah.
My Doctor Who collection does have some PAL discs for episodes that hadn't yet been released in the States. Of course, now they released everything, but whatever.
Yeah.
Back then I had to, both times I went to England, I came home with at least one Doctor Who episode.
You have your armfuls of, yeah.
Forbidden Planet, man. That place sees you
Oh,
coming.
my magic. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
So all of that, we're going to talk about Women in Horror Month, though.
Let's go into what's really important this month. Yes. One of the things. It's definitely women in horror.
Women in horror. So, actually, I'm going to ask, well, I will say, so Women in Horror Month was started by a group of women who were looking to promote women behind the camera and women at film festivals, so women involvement in film festivals. So that was the big part of it. Women in Horror Month was as a promotion for women horror directors and horror creators to be more active in film festivals and creating film festivals for it. And blogs and all these types of things to kind of get that going. So everything that I've read about it pretty much is at the core of it, film festival driven, which is cool. But of course it's expanded out to like everything and anything that is horror, talking about women in horror. And our interpretations of what that mean have changed over time. I mean, a lot of times it's horror based, horror with its women-centric stories, horror that's written by women in the lit world, or movies made with women behind the camera. Different aspects that you'll hear women in horror come up. But we were talking a little bit earlier this week about some things that we thought would be important to bring up for this Women in Horror Month on this conversation. Why don't you start with something that you were bringing to me the other day that was very interesting?
Shall I start with the film or the book?
Let's start with the film.
Okay. After I watched this movie, was it 2 weeks ago? 3 weeks ago, so I believe it was the next day that I started texting everyone, and you and Melissa, if she joins or not, were two of the people, and I was like, you need to watch Promising Young Woman. It's been a while, I feel, since I saw something new, fresh, first run that made me so excited. And now it's got a lot of nominations. It's got 4 Golden Globe, 6 Critic Choice, 9 Hollywood Critics Association nominations, and then a SAG award, a SAG nomination for Carey Mulligan, who's the lead, who's playing the lead character. So this is, it's out now to stream, and it is also in theaters. I know some theaters are open, but if you don't feel comfortable in a theater, you've got Prime Video, Apple TV, Vudu, Google Play, Fandango Now, which is what we used, and Alamo On Demand. And it's going to be the price of, it's about, I think it was like $20. So it's almost close to what you'd pay per person, I feel, towards like the end of us leaving everything, if that's what it was. What was it costing to see a movie at one point? Like, I guess 15 almost.
At least 15, yeah.
After like fees and charges and stuff like that. It's 100% worth it, besides the fact that we need to keep the industry going. So we do need to pay money. I know there's the streaming services, but when something's new and out and we can or don't feel like we should get to the theater, or a lot of theaters, I know it's sporadic that some are open, most of them aren't. It's worth it to pay the money, because you have to look at it like, I am still going to the movies even if I'm in my house, because that money is worth it to be paid for what you're seeing, just like you'd be walking into a theater. But this is a revenge film, and I personally love revenge films. A lot of time, I'm a big Batman fan. I'm like, vengeance, revenge, vigilante justice, sure. I know there's always like, they always say the person with the knife cuts themselves too, and I know there's the whole, if you go searching for revenge and it comes back to bite you, and I get that, yes. But I love the way that this was handled. So it's Focus Features. We've got this like really exciting, awesome indie film, and it's kind of Emerald Fennell, who wrote, produced, and directed this. So she's like all across the board, and this is her directorial debut. She kind of labeled it as a poison popcorn movie, which I liked that. That kind of like, that's a direct quote from her. I read this LA Times article that came out yesterday that was really good. I know you'll link it down there, where it's got some darkness in it, and it's obviously about dark subject matter, but there's enough humor in it that the feeling is it's more watchable for most people than I guess other revenge films that have come in the past. I know like the ones you were just studying of the 80s and 90s have a lot of really visceral, rough, or you see why the revenge happens. In this one, they talk about it and it's referenced, but you don't actually see the act. For me, that's a better thing because that's something that I really can't stomach in films. I know it's tough for some people. Yeah. So there's that aspect of it. And then you have this amazing performance by Carey Mulligan, who's this really brilliant young woman who had, a brilliant time. She had a time in college where she was going to a high-end school and she was really smart. And then she dropped out and you find out why she dropped out. And she's now living with her parents and she's working in a coffee shop. And everybody's like, well, what are you? You're so smart and you had so much potential. Why are you doing this? And she's using her genius and her potential for the plot of the movie, for what she feels and needs, has to get done. But just excellent. Like, I haven't been this excited about something in a really long time. And it's extremely timely with Me Too. Obviously we hate to say that, but this is even something, a film like this opens the discussion even more, where some people can still hide from it and close their eyes to it. If you're going to sit down with a whole bunch of different people in your life and be like, we need to go watch this, and then we could talk about it after, because like she was saying, she made it like a little bit palatable, and it's kind of has the feeling. She was saying before too that a lot of revenge films are, they kind of go really, really big. And this isn't about a woman like arming herself and gunning up to go take out a bunch of people. She wanted to write something that felt like it could really happen in real life. She's like, what's this person going to do in their real life to then take the steps to, work out a plot that she feels needs to happen. Margot Robbie is the producer, which I thought was really cool. So a little like sprinkle of like Harley Quinn in there, if you want to say so, which that was one thing I did appreciate from that movie that I wasn't that big of a fan of. Oh,
really?
I
like that
the
movie.
Birds. I like Birds of Prey. That was fun.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but I thought that was cool. So there's so many like moving parts in here that are all like female related. But the fact that Emerald wrote this and directed it and conceptualized it, because it was mostly like her thinking about, well, what's life like this, and all the times that we see, the joke of the drunk girl, and that's the one you want to bring home kind of thing. And that it's, why is that always okay? And why is it funny? And why is she the one that everyone goes for? And, and why are we allowing that? Because it's like the stuff that she's seen through her life, and maybe the stuff, and the stuff that we were even shown when we were younger with the media and stuff that we grew up with. It was like, make fun of the drunk sloppy girl, or it was always like women were mysterious and sexy, and guys had the right to go find that out and want to look at them and want to touch them, because women are like, woo, the mysteries of life and that kind of thing. So she's like, why were we always okay with this? So what if the person that you think you're going to get isn't the person you get? And then why are you upset by that? It was like, were you looking for the drunk girl? And, question yourself as to why she was the one you wanted to bring home instead of someone who turns out to be sober or whatever. So it's like I said, it's worth your time, and it's worth like a really awesome discussion afterwards. And I feel like it kind of segues into, so it made me think of another favorite film of mine, which is Hard Candy from 2005, which I know it got a couple of awards. I looked it up. It said it's got about 9, and then Elliot Page, who starred as Haley, actually got an Austin Film Critics Association award.
Yep.
And then we have Patrick Wilson in there too. So those were written and directed by men. And the initial thought of that was the producer heard a story about a gang of Japanese girls who would go around and they would kind of flirt and, kind of try and seduce local businessmen and then bring the guys back to their place. And then they would rob the guys and assault them. And that was the producer was like, oh, I saw this on 2020, but then he took it to a screenwriter and he's like, what could we do with it? Yeah. And screenwriter Brian Nelson made this really awesome story about a young girl who is 14 years old, and she starts an online relationship with a man who's 32, but it's because she's connected to somebody who went missing that she finds out that the guy that she kind of went towards is involved in that. So it turns out to the prey is the predator, but I don't know if it's just brilliantly written. So I don't know if they thought they were writing like, oh, we're writing this awesome kind of, I still see it as a feminist vengeance kind of piece. I know some people would argue that with me, but that's how I see it. And that's what it turned into. And I know that was back in 2005 when we weren't talking about this as much. Mm-hmm. And I know it ruffled some feathers the way that Promising Young Woman is ruffling feathers still. But I think that's more palatable, or maybe more people are accepting, or at least they're letting themselves be more open-minded than they did with Hard Candy. But I feel like if you don't know Promising Young Woman, you should go see Hard Candy too. Do it after. Promising Young Woman's like a bigger version of that because it takes place with more people over like a longer period of time. Hard Candy's mostly the two actors in a setting of a day, right, which is another cool concept I like too, just between them.
It's almost in real time also. I always love films that are able to do that.
Me too, like you're watching a play or something like that. Definitely. But those two together, I was actually in an online discussion where one of the Facebook pages that I'm on wanted to talk about horror movies, and somebody wrote, Promising Young Woman, can we please, comedy thriller. I know it's not really horror, but I guess it can like float into that section a little. Somebody was talking about how they had just seen it and they were ready to discuss it. And I happened upon that post and I jumped right in. And I was like, yeah, let's talk. And I mentioned Hard Candy a bunch of times, and maybe because there were some younger people in the group they didn't know. So a few of them went and found it. And I said, when you see it, come back and talk to me. And they were like, oh, wow, that was great. I couldn't believe that was perfect. So one of them said she heard Hard Candy referenced with Promising Young Woman, as somebody like brought it up and was like, if you like this, you should watch this. Yeah. But that's what made me an Elliot Page fan. I mean, he was amazing. And that performance is brilliant. Same thing with Patrick Wilson. He did an amazing job. But yeah, Carey Mulligan and this is in Promising Young Woman is just flawless, and it's got some cool. The cast is really great. I love seeing Molly Shannon and Jennifer Coolidge too playing like straight roles. I always liked when a over the top. That's just a personal thing. When an over the top comedian that they're known for plays a very straight laced, kind of dramatic role. So it does have its moments of dark humor, but not in any silly way. It's got its times where there's like definitely some good misdirection, and then I think it's got a great payoff. So cool.
It sounds
your
great.
Money, go see it.
I need to see it. I do need to see it.
I know. And then I think I texted you and Mel like a week later, and I'm like, "Did you see it yet?" And then like going on.
And then 2 days later, did you see it yet? Yeah. And I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm behind. I'm always behind on everything." Yeah. But it was fascinating, just even for me seeing the trailer and then talking to you about it, because it is so close to what I've been studying. I mean, last semester.
That's wild, right? Exactly.
Here we go. I was oops. Here we go. I was deep into the study of rape revenge films. I have
just so intense.
I have a tendency to pick things that I end up having to get, like, did I really pick that? And I guess I did. Yeah. But
what film was that on the cover from? Do you know off the top, not to put you on the spot?
I believe it's from MS-45.
Okay.
Front cover. Oh, sorry. Yeah, MS-45, Angel of Vengeance.
Okay.
Yep, I got it right. Okay.
I know a lot of those I probably won't watch, but I'll let you tell me about them because does it usually those are the ones that include like the act of why the revenge is happening.
Right. And
for the most part, yeah.
And mostly these are films from the 70s. So
oh, well then, yeah.
It is films where they're very independent films. These aren't big budget major pictures. These are like grassroots made films. And part of that is 9 times out of 10 it's the ability to push the envelope of what we think is proper, right?
Because that was part of making that movie.
Well, it's part of like
envelope pushing, or the 70s, or
the 70s independent cinema is all about that. I mean, from the late 60s forward, I mean, there's that encapsulated period where American grassroots filmmaking was all about just changing the norms. And I mean, there's a lot of study that's been done about the fact that Americans have spent so much time in the late 60s seeing violence every day because of Vietnam being televised. Right. So it's this kind of almost regurgitation of that. It's like, you're forcing me to see this, so I'm going to force you to see this. You know,
I remember that being spoken a lot in regards of horror and that.
Yeah, there's a couple of documentaries that talk about this. One of them is The American Nightmare, which talks to Wes Craven and George Romero and John Carpenter and David Cronenberg and all these people who are part of that time period because they were just being radical filmmakers in this way of like forcing the world to deal with things and sometimes using lots of humor, and understanding that blood and gore can be humorous, and just making things absurd on purpose, or pushing things to such extremes like Texas Chainsaw, where, you know, you have to deal not just with violence being kind of thrown at you, but also just disorientation in the world. And I think that transfers a lot into Rape Revenge. And there's also, I mean, you can't deny the fact that there's also some, at least, discussion over how much Rape Revenge is playing with the ability to show rape. Stuff, but and is it an exploitative way? Is it in a sexual way? And pretty much all the studies that I have done and the movies that I've watched along with them, there's no way that you're going to confuse that these women are enjoying this. And I think that's a large fact that got missed in the 80s. Right. When you deal, there's a lot of issues with feminism and horror not always being friends.
Right. And we know that. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a big part of it, is it's the idea that we're taking advantage of women in these ways, and we are exploiting their bodies by, you know, not just stripping them bare, but then brutalizing them. And you know, there's a lot of talk about is that really what's happening here, or is it something else? And there are a few films that border on that, but
was stuff that you saw where you felt you're like, ugh.
Well, I mean, there's films that I really liked, like I didn't expect to like there's a film, Thriller, which is one of the films that is very influential to Quentin Tarantino. Okay. And it's where he gets the idea of the patch that Daryl Hannah has in Kill Bill comes from this. Yes. And it's you know, she's a trained killer who has, you know, this trauma that you want to know how she got the patch, and it traces back to Thriller, which is a uncomfortable film about a girl who is pretty much taken off the street and ends up put into prostitution. But she is smart. She gets a day off every week. And what does she do with that day? She saves up the money and she trains herself to be a killer.
Awesome.
So it's fucking cool.
It's the best. You know, like, if you have the time, that's how you use it.
So I mean, there's stuff like that where it's like, these are crazy concepts. But unfortunately, the film was also originally shot with what we would consider XXX hardcore porn.
Okay.
Which was edited out for versions that you can watch now. Just like you can watch Cannibal Holocaust without the animal brutalization scenes. Right. You can watch Thriller in a cut that does not include the you know, hardcore porn. So that's the cut I watched, just as a disclaimer there.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because I was like, really? Oh, okay, cool. Wait, there's another version? I'll look for that version. You know,
You're like, I'm fine with this. It's okay.
Yeah, I can't go there, but not in a movie where you're supposed to cheer her on. That's not going to happen.
Exactly.
So that's one film that I learned about. Angel of Vengeance, MS-45, is another film that's a very similar in nature, where it's a quiet woman who has no particular agency of her own through most of the beginning of the film, goes through some horrible experiences, and the next thing you know, she's a vigilante going out at night and taking out men that she thinks. It goes from this kind of, I can tell that man is stalking that girl, or I can tell these guys are going to do violence to that woman, so I'm going to target them, to slowly kind of like falling into this slope of, did you know that that guy was going to do something wrong, or you just wanted to kill him? You know, like
she got a taste for it.
Yeah, she just wants to go out there and find an excuse. It becomes to the point where she's almost tempting people on purpose so that she can prove,
you
know. So films like that, which I did not expect to actually kind of walk away like, wow, that was a really good movie. I like that, you know. And of course, you can't have you can't deal with rape revenge without films like I Spit on Your Grave, Last House on the Left. I mean, these are all films I've experienced before and have definitely learned what their value was that I did not see when I was younger, and see what they were doing.
A step above me, because those are the ones I knew about, and I'm just like, I can't open that door. But I appreciate, I know that you have to, and it's part of your learning, and and your school, and how you're like, creating all that. But
it's not fun. I mean, it's not like you don't look forward to these.
No, I was going to say.
It's one of those, it's like, I gotta watch. Why do I keep putting myself in a situation where I have to rewatch Last House? You know, it's like, I've written about this movie a lot. And it keeps coming up because it's an influential film. Wes Craven and Sean Cunningham, the two men who will launch slasher films,
of course,
in both directions, make this film that is just putting everything in your face and making you hate everyone, and it's just a movie that makes you want to take a shower after, because they're all just evil, awful people and
bad to people.
But it's impossible to not see what's going on in their heads when they're making this film, and showing humanity has the ability to be this awful, and at the same time knows and kind of recoils from themselves. And there is merit in it in ways, but there's a lot to be said. And it was funny seeing the commercial for this film that was coming out, and hearing you talk about it. It was just like, I see the roots in a lot of where they can go because of these films, and because 100%. Of the filmmakers that came before. But I will say, I was going to say, I will say that after watching about a dozen films for the paper that I did and the research I did last semester on rape revenge, I can't say I saw any that were made by women.
Right. No.
And it's, as much as this is a topic we don't like to have to relive, I think that's the story that's missing. It is.
And that's why this was such a big deal. Like I said, even Hard Candy, when I'll pay attention to the credits and everything, and when I'm watching something, and when I was in the middle of Hard Candy, especially when I first saw it, I almost wished it was made by a woman. And I'm not trying to, if I sound super sexist with that, apologies, but hey, whatever.
This is a tough one.
I was like, oh God, that's so good. And I wish, it would have, not that the impact was any less, but I was like, that would have made it even more, intense for me, because it is an excellent script and it's acted wonderfully. And I know it was a movie that made a lot of men angry and uncomfortable. And that makes me wonder now.
Yeah.
Exactly. And if they're really pissed, they got to look at themselves, honestly. I'll just say that. But I wonder if they're angry and uncomfortable if they watch Last House or I Spit on Your Grave. That's the thing that'll,
That's a lot of the debate is, as always with horror, the debate is who's the audience, and is the audience that's, there's this misnomer, and part of what led me to the rape revenge semester was the slasher semester before it, was dealing with Carol Clover.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, this is like the book on
That's
women in horror.
yeah.
But at the same time, she perpetuates in here the idea that the audience is predominantly young men.
Mm-hmm.
And that's never really been proven. I've read in trying to disprove her, actually, I've looked for other accounts, and there's fairly little research that actually goes along with this. Most of it says an audience is pretty split. Going back into the idea of movie theaters, it's like when you could poll an audience, how many people were actually counting by gender, and they weren't. So then when they do finally intentionally look by gender, they say mostly it's either groups of girls or groups of guys or couples going to theaters, and those even out. There's not like a theater, unless you're playing in a grindhouse in 1972, where women weren't exactly welcome into the environment of grindhouse, which is a whole other discussion.
That's a whole other story.
Women were watching just as much horror as men were, and people didn't want to believe that. So that goes back into that, though.
And it seems like it's almost something that we believed that it was just young men or something like that, because that's what they wanted to focus on, because that's what they said these are for, because they maybe couldn't fathom or didn't even want to discuss that women, you being yourself a female in horror from a young age and having to walk into like a boys club and be like, no, we're here, we love this, this is cool with me too.
Yeah, I mean, and that's,
a lot of people didn't want to talk about that.
Right.
There were a lot of you in there, but they had to be kept silent because it was like, this is for the guys. And
how much of that is just for the marketing guys?
I think that's what it is.
It's for the marketing to be able to say, well, we know who our target audience is, so let's just keep making it all of the advertising for them.
Yeah, because they're like, here's some boobs and here's this, and that's just boys and whatever. And to just discount like the whole another gender.
Like the entire 1980s.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
which we grew up with, and we loved a lot of that. And
you had to find your way to it, and as much as they tried, it didn't dissuade me from it. So, and we all stuck it out, so we're still here.
And because of some of that, like I'll even go back to what Emerald was saying in her LA Times article. It's like the reason why these films get made now is because she still wants to comment on, why was that okay?
Right.
Kind of thing. And then what happens if the person that you thought was not the person you thought? And that kind of cool thing. But I was also hearing a lot of negative reactions from men on this one too.
Yeah.
And that'll just always blow my mind, because even when the guys are the criminals, if the woman does something they think goes too far, they're still going to say, oh, but she still didn't have to do that. And I want to be like, well, what those other movies that you love, did those men have to do that to those women? Were you pissed then? Probably not.
Well, and then I see just as much complaint about any horror story that gets too female centric.
Yes. I
will say that Halloween 2018, which unfortunately my graphic covers over. Oh, so much crankiness.
I didn't go looking for it. Really?
Because I don't have to go looking for it. It's just
women.
Yeah, why? I don't need all this feminism in my horror movies, and I don't need 3 generations of women, which is exactly what I was cheering for.
Exactly.
Like how many times
if
do you
you're
just have
a
to see men?
And if you're even a fan of Halloween, and if you're a fan of Halloween, Laurie's the main person, so why don't you want to know about the generation of her life? Because it's always been her there, or her battle in the beginning, first 2 movies, and then comes in later, like H2O, if I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was a good idea.
It was a cute idea.
Made in a bad time period to make horror movies, maybe?
I think that's the best way to say it. It was a cool idea, but it didn't
stick with that.
To keep fully. Yeah. Why, if you love this movie and she's always been there, why all of a sudden do you have a problem with it? Don't you like lineage and legacy and the character who's fighting against?
And that's part of the problem.
What kind of fan are you? I have to ask.
It seems like there's a faction of fandom that has no want for the lineage and background and all of that. on the survivor side. They only
just want the monster,
the killer. Yeah. And it's just
lineage.
like, but you can't
have one without the other. You need both.
That's not a great story because Michael doesn't talk.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
You can only go so far with that. And I mean, and then when Rob Zombie tried to do that, you hated it. Everybody hated it when Zombie did it. And, maybe that's why I like that one, because he totally figured out how to give him some depth that he wasn't supposed to have before. And the whole ball of wax, I don't know. But
nuts to that. And
horror fans are not always the easiest people to please.
I'm shocked by that statement, Vic. Never heard that before in my life. And do you know that sci-fi fans are not the easiest to please too?
No, I've heard this before too.
Yeah.
We have, between the wars and the Treks, we cannot come together. I know.
No.
But I will say also that it is these factions of, it's not just all men who like horror, all women who like horror. There's no all anybody. We all have individual tastes and wants what we want from when we watch a film. But it's the fact that we can't let the other person have something that we don't like is what ruins fandoms for me.
And those voices can tend to be the loudest. I think now we're in a place where we're finally just as loud, or matching the pitch of the loud, complaining, jerky voices. Yeah. And we're like, no, shut your face. And it's not like that. It's like this. Right. So, I need you to sit down and check yourself before you start screaming because this woman did this, but you don't understand why the 500 other things that had just happened to her are even justified. So how can you even,
It's true.
But what everyone needs to watch Promising Young Woman, please. Even if you're on the fence and you're not sure, or if you think you're that kind of guy or that kind of girl that's not going to dig it, watch it anyway. See how you really feel, then have a discussion. If you still don't like it, it's not for you. It's not for you. But you never know until you put yourself in front of the art before you get to judge it. That's a big thing with me.
Yeah. You don't know your opinion until you've actually watched something, which is probably why it takes me so long to get to so many things, because I have to take the time to get to it. Yeah. But
I know we've all been guilty, and I know I've been guilty of being like, bleh. And then I will. And then when I do, and then I even say, because I'm the one who will tell people, give it your time, and then you can complain or love it. So I know that I have to give myself the time.
Yep. That's what it is.
And I can complain. And then I can
that's
everyone they need to watch this film.
That's the deal. If I watched it and I still can walk away and say, oh, I didn't like that at all, now at least I know what my opinion is.
You have all your reasons why. Exactly. Yeah.
But what I wanted to bring up along with that is I also wanted to point out, and this was a good way to do that, was the scholarship side of Women in Horror Month. And
cool.
Both of these great tomes are by women. Carol Clover, the premier writer on the topic of women representation in horror. Now, since then, there's been some books, definitely, but Alexandra Heller Nichols, who's done the Rape Revenge Films book, recently just came out with this tome that I will show you here.
That is now on its way to me. After you told Mel and I about this, I went on while we talked on my phone and ordered that for myself.
It's massive.
I am very excited to have that. And
it's a full-on encyclopedia, guys.
Oh, that's fantastic. And what are the years it's from?
So this is Women in Horror from 1895 to 2018. 1,000 Women in Horror. And
I love this.
What's awesome about this book is she spent so much time researching that it's not just actresses, it's not just directors, it's writers, it's composers, it's costume designers, it's editors, it's women who work on the production side.
I love it.
Studio heads.
You never ever hear these names. And we're so not to say we're guilty of this, but we know so many men in the industry that we're fans of, and how many male directors are we just like bonkers for? And I always think the same thing. For me, I hate that my scale's uneven for the amount of female directors that I know and love and have seen all their stuff. Like I've seen all of this dude, that dude, the other dude's stuff. And even like you said, even the parts of like costume and everything that makes up a film, when those credits roll at the end, that's one of the reasons why I love to sit. And I know you sit through credits too.
Got it.
That was actually something Kevin Smith said when Ed and I saw him live last year. He said, if you sit through the credits in the end of a film, you're a filmmaker. And I got a little teary-eyed, because I totally understand what he said. Everyone is so important to that piece of work that I always felt like sitting through the credits was, first of all, like a physical completion of the film that I love to go through. I think it's abrupt to just stop. I hated that. But then I also felt like that was a piece, that was me. I wanted to give credit to the credits. I wanted to give my time, and I'm not going to remember everyone's name, but I wanted to watch their names and acknowledge all of them as that role, because everyone had an important part. And I always look for a female name too. And when you see them in little places that you don't expect, it's really cool.
And one of the reasons I started doing that was to really just take in all of the jobs, and to acknowledge all these different people, like the millions of people it takes sometimes.
It takes
hundreds. It takes a couple villages to make a movie sometimes.
It takes more than a village.
It takes more than a village.
It takes a continent to make a film sometimes. Yeah.
But on the other side of that, so the kind of the bookend to that tome is in that vein. Women Make Horror.
Oh, cool.
Which also came out. These both came out last year. This one's edited by Alison Pierce. And
good name. 1L or 2? Just curious.
A 1L.
Oh. I love my 1L Allisons. There's not a lot of us out there. Okay, go ahead.
But this is I'm
going to put that on my list.
Yeah, this is a great one too. This is academic studies of films made by women. So this awesome. Is studies on films directed by women, films written by women. There's discussions about authorship, which whenever you study film in a way that you're taking in directors and their catalogs, there's the auteur theory that it is one person who made this movie what it is, and we all fall into that of giving all the credit sometimes. But
I know I'm guilty of it too, and I should know better. And taking film classes and being involved in production on even a low end production, but knowing how much everybody's a part of that.
Yeah, and I mean it's fair because we associate with the director. Yes. Many of the directors that I follow and I care about are writer directors. You have the handful that are writer director editors, which to me are like that's the right way to go, because that is totally telling the story. But
else touch that.
But and only a few people can get away with that. So in this book they talk about the concept of authorship not always being the director. Sometimes it's the screenwriter. And there's discussions in here particularly about the movie Ginger Snaps, which is another film that we think about as a feminist horror film.
Exactly, yeah.
Directed by a man but written by a woman. Right. And it was interesting to read in the story of Ginger Snaps being made, which I didn't remember knowing before, was that the director had the idea and knew he wanted it to be about teenage girls growing up in the suburbs, but he'd never been a teenage girl growing up in the suburbs. So what does he do? He finds a woman who can write that story. And she goes from not being interested to completely taking ownership of the story once the film is made. So
I didn't know about this either.
Yeah, that was really fascinating to me. Yeah. So that article was particularly interesting to me. The article about Suspiria. Speaking of auteurs, we constantly consider Argento an auteur because of the styling of his films, which are is very unique to him. But we forget also that he collaborated with Daria Nicolodi several times throughout his career, and she maybe doesn't get as much credit as is due. And he may be one of the proprietors of the fact that she doesn't get enough credit. And perhaps, I don't know, maybe that's why they're not together or weren't together. Unfortunately, she just passed away. But this article was particularly making a case for her being the author of that film, not just because she wrote it, but because it's very specific to experiences that she relate from a story from her grandmother. It's the fact that a man who had been making a series of giallo thrillers all of a sudden makes a very supernatural story, which she says that was not his. It
wasn't in his wheelhouse anyway. So all of a sudden, why would he pick it out of the sky kind of thing and suddenly
have such a beautiful story told and all this? So, so that was very fascinating to hear her side of that.
So that's like old Italian folklore almost.
Yeah, it's like a
in a way.
combination of Italian folklore and German folklore, and it's
Cool.
playing with the old concepts of witches.
Right.
And it's very interesting to hear about it from a new perspective, because it is a film that's very feminine,
Yeah.
and its use of colors is very feminine in certain ways, where it's expressionistic. You're feeling how they feel emoted
I
through
like
color.
that. I think that's one of the things I like most about it.
Mm-hmm. And of course, I love the score.
But yeah, that's really. I remember you playing that in college all the time, and then I believe you made me a little mixtape.
Yes,
and
I did.
I loved listening to that in the car. It was great to drive to.
It is great to drive to. Goblin is awesome to drive to.
Yeah. Did you see the new one? And what are your thoughts, if you did? I wasn't interested in the new Suspiria. I was like,
I didn't.
I didn't. I was like, why? Why do they have to? No thanks.
I had this debate recently, and I know I should see it eventually.
Because do you feel like you should, because you're such an Argento fan and a fan of that film, that you need to at least know, again, when we were talking about, if you're really going to have a thought, besides if your first thought is why, and they shouldn't have, that you need to see it to be like, okay, let me
I think it's known I'm not a fan of remakes, and there are very few that I do have a love for, and I have to watch the ones I don't like to find out I don't like them. I don't.
Yes, you're right. Exactly.
So, Suspiria is on that list. Unfortunately, it's not particularly high on the list, but people keep reminding me that I need to see it. And
I'm sorry, and I just did that too.
No. Last weekend, it was reminded to me again by a whole group of people. So it's like, I know, I'll see it. But
I almost want you. I don't want to see it, but I want you to see it so you could tell me what you thought about it, because.
I mean, I'm also swayed.
Argento person in my life, so
I'm also swayed by the fact that the director, who I can't think of the name of right now, he came off particularly chauvinistic several points in the campaigning of the film.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think there was a time he showed up at one event with a T-shirt that was saying something like,
Oh, I remember this.
Yeah,
I forget exactly, but I remember it was something where I was like, yuck, sir, no.
Yeah, it was like a Harvey Weinstein kind of thing, and it was just like, no, you can't go there and expect me to watch your movie about women. No.
Was it something like Harvey being innocent or some BS like that?
It was Free Harvey, I think.
Go to hell. Yep, go right to hell, sir.
So that may have put me off the idea of ever giving money to that movie.
I feel like, I wouldn't want to either now.
But I know it's on streaming now, so that's why I'm saying I should watch. So I will get to that eventually. I will report back.
It's definitely not a priority, especially that nonsense.
Yeah.
But that makes me think real quick about the remake of Evil Dead. Mm-hmm. Because I was all cranky, no. And then I was pleasantly surprised, and that being female-centric. And I remember, and I was like, oh, wait, this is cool. I like this. And it was funny because I was watching it with two guys, and the guys were even saying something like, if I was going to get freaked out or if I was scared. And I was like, do you know we're watching the same movie where all the women are doing all the stuff. Yeah. So I was like, y'all need to be scared of me. I was like, because the women are coming for everyone's ass in this movie. So I'm not afraid. I was like, you should be worried.
Actually, Lisa is the person who got me to watch the Evil Dead remake. Yep.
Thanks,
we watched it at her house. I was surprised. I wasn't expecting it to be awful, because I knew that the people who made the original were the producers on this one.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't have put it out if it was awful. But I was surprised how much I enjoyed it. And they're still working on another one of those. So let's see what happens.
I heard that, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like it's going to be, from what I've heard recently, a whole nother group of people dealing with the cabin. So
that's cool. That would make sense.
Yeah, it's almost like the idea is that it's many people get stuck in the same hell.
This is the bad place, and different people are going there,
and they all get drawn to it for one reason or another.
Right.
So that's interesting. That should be fun. There's, like I said, there's not. I'm not gonna say all remakes are bad. It's just a lot of them are.
A lot of them are. I'm was the number one again. Like anything, I'll initially just be like a cranky mess, and can't you believe this? And why can't they leave well enough alone? I feel like you're maybe even a little more open-minded than I am when it comes to that.
I like to give stuff a try, at least.
Yeah.
But
I'm getting a little better. But, you know, like I said.
I mean, I still haven't
Cranky old
the
lady.
the two I haven't touched. I haven't touched that or Nightmare on Elm Street because those are just too precious.
I don't.
You know, I know I can't.
I don't have any. I don't need.
I will eventually.
There's no need. You can and tell me then because I don't want to see New Nightmare. I didn't.
You know. Usually I can find at least one thing that I enjoy in something. You know, might not be an entire film.
Your half full glass, dear, because it's not. And we
I know it's tough to make a movie.
As we dubbed ourselves that in college. We were giving ourselves Muppet identities like you do with your friends.
Yep.
Vic and I pretty much looked at each other. We're like, we're a Waldorf and Statler, and we're telling everyone about themselves up in the balcony. No, I'm fine with that. I'll own it. I'd like to add, fold in a little Miss Piggy for myself there too.
Yeah.
But straight up, when we're together, it's us.
I think in my family, I was Scooter.
Oh, because you're just sweet and you're watching everyone else be wild.
I think because I was too nice compared to everybody else, at least.
There is nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I was just in the background. I was trying to keep everybody in line and be like, "Wait, can't
is Scooter the producer? Because didn't he always have like a clipboard and he's like, I got to get this show going. Come on."
Yeah, I was trying to make the show happen. Yeah, exactly.
Keeping everyone in track.
Some shout outs to the rest of the chat right now.
That's cool. You can see it. I can't.
I have a special screen. But
you're the boss.
Because we're talking about his sister, so Sean saying hi. Of course, we know we trust Lisa's opinion on movies. We know that
hardcore, yeah.
And the Ferraras are in the audience too, so that's cool.
Oh my god!
Hi, Mom and Dad.
Hey, Mom and Dad. They had a lovely dinner out before this. I'm glad they're joining.
I'm sorry if we were talking about off things, but.
But they've got 40. They've known me 42 years. Yeah. Like, what are they going to be shocked now that something crazy comes out of my mouth? Come on.
My dad doesn't know how to get to the YouTube, so
he'll do it.
Won't know what we've been talking about. He called me while I'm trying to set up the show. That's.
Is he like, is it on yet? And you're like, wait.
It's like, Dad, we said we can't video chat tonight. I got things. Aw, yeah. But I did want to say, so Women in Horror Month. It's a wonderful tradition. There's many people, particularly, I know this is a debate that's come up in the literary world of horror, is that, that's great and all, thank you, but can we not just talk about women for 1 month of the year? And, it's that whole, let's talk about women in horror all year long. And I kind of think that's what I do. So,
yeah,
that's
always going to be like your main, like the root.
I think we all have to do that. We all have to do that. We all have to be diligent about, like you say, I mean, finding, the movies that are made by women, the movies that are telling different stories in different ways, because we've watched a lot of movies. We want to hear new stories.
And that's why I also loved the, what a lot of people are calling the good for her genre. Mm-hmm. Of women in horror, which stuff along the lines of Midsummer and The Witch. I know those are very polarizing, and as many people love them as hate. I think they're very black and white. You either really love it or hate it. I never heard anyone who said, I was about it.
Right. It's not that kind of
people,
movie.
When I would talk about it, people would come to me and be like, it's garbage. And I was like, that's one of my favorite things I saw this year or last year, whenever. I was like, so I don't know what to tell you. Like, it hit me in that way that I thought it was perfect. But that theme of, like, in the end, it's not just like a final girl. It's like even more than that. Like, she really gets a payoff.
Right.
And everyone else around her who has been causing trouble is totally devastated, that you're just like, oh, good for her. Mm-hmm. And I'm all about that. I was like, more of this. Let's go.
Yep. And even, I think that's something that we, not because of Carol Clover, it's not her fault that we got trapped into the idea of the final girl. Right. But I will say that
she coined the term.
Yes, she coined the term in the book Men, Women, and Chainsaws. Yeah. But she was grouping these films that she saw as a common denominator: a girl who made it out alive, a survivor.
That's what it was. They all were there.
Right.
That's true. That was the formula.
And it was a formula for a long time, and I think there was this resurgence in the 90s trying to reframe it. And I'm thankful now that maybe while we know it's a trope and we all acknowledge it, I think it's far more interesting now when we can have, you know, not just a final girl, but final women, or, you know,
Exactly.
final girls with an S, like more than one woman can survive.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't just
And
have to be the nice virgin.
yeah, and even that, I mean, I just talked about this in my Scream episode, because even in Scream, we get rid of that assumption that, oh, well,
exactly,
if you're a virgin, you won't die. Oh, well, let's test that theory. Huh?
Yeah, exactly.
But there's also, you know, there are remakes that have played with those tropes, and that makes that interesting. Another film that got a lot of backlash was the remake. Both remakes I can think of are Black Christmas, made by women.
Yeah.
For changing it up and telling a very different story within the same confines. And I'm telling you, sometimes to me, that is far more important in a remake to tell a different story, because I don't need to see the same story, because if I wanted to, I just would have gotten Black Christmas off the shelf. But exactly. No, I want to see a new story.
Right. That's the only reason for it, if you really need to do it.
Let's expand it and change it and play with it. And because Rabbit is another one.
Happen. Oh, okay, yeah, because we know why remakes happen in the industry, because somebody wants something bankable and studios need to make money.
Same reason that we have things with numbers after them. Exactly. Because the first one did well, let's make 7 more.
Yeah.
And you know what?
See what happens.
I'm a sucker and I will see all of them.
I know.
Doesn't mean I'm going to like them all.
If we pulled out that shot on your shelf.
Yes. I mean, there's a lot of numbers up there too. I know it. I mean, I just finished
like a couple numbers more than just the first.
Yeah. I mean, and you know, you're sitting in front of your Star Wars trilogy. So, I mean, those are numbers. Those are sequels. And sequels aren't always bad.
Right there, kids.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, a Rabbit is another example where they take a film, it's a beloved film. And I recently rewatched the Cronenberg one. And it is.
I still haven't seen that.
It's a crazy movie. It really is. It's a bizarre movie.
Yeah.
But they gave it a feminine spin. And probably the fault I have with the Cronenberg version is you don't know the main character at all.
Okay.
She's not even a victim. She's more like a succubus, or she becomes this thing. She's not really ever.
Is she what's rabid and causing the problem?
But at the same point, we never really see her before she becomes the problem. So we don't know her as a person. So here we see her, and they take a lot from the movie MS-45, actually, of combining the two and saying, okay, well, here's this meek, mousy girl who works in the fashion industry, which is an interesting place to put horror.
And which makes sense.
Yeah, there's a lot of horror that goes on.
There's a lot of body horror and emotional and mental horror. I love the fashion industry. I'm wearing a label,
right?
But yeah, that's a big part of it. Let's not make mince words.
Right.
It can be horrific.
Definitely. So that's the thing too. It's being innovative and changing and making it their own. And that's what made that fascinating to me. And both those films that were iconic horror movies from the 70s that were made by men, that were now kind of revamped, no pun intended, by women, to have, a whole new life and a whole new meaning. And I love it. And I think we need more of that. And those are the films, unfortunately, that I hear a lot of the backlash about.
That's where the complaints come.
Yeah, it's like, why is this got to be about girls now? It's like, well, they were about girls before. You just didn't know anything about them or care.
Right.
So.
Or you were fine when they were all getting offed real quick and they're just bodies on the floor.
But heaven forbid they fight back.
Yeah, they fight back or speak.
Have thoughts.
More than just, they have a thought in their head and like a punch to somebody or a knife in their hand.
Yeah. But so, I mean, all of that to say that there are still things being done that are interesting, innovative, new, and different. And a lot of it, it's great to see female voices getting that chance to be part of it. And that's what's great to me about something like Women in Horror Month, because it's a reminder to watch horror movies about women or made by women all year long, and not just to get stuck in the rut of the movies that we already know and we love, but let's try something new and let's watch other things and
to have this be presented to everyone and be like, here's a whole offering that now you can go through the rest of the next couple months of the year and like schedule this or these films or these books. I know we're going to talk about that in a bit for writers and stuff like that.
let's go to that now. That's a good segue.
I segued myself to myself.
Yes.
Back to you, Al. I tossed
Back to you, because
myself.
I did talk about my books. They're just all about movies. So
no, well, that's something that I'll admit that I totally is super uneven. Is the male horror, fantasy, sci-fi writers that I'm a fan of. Did I even have any women in there? I don't think I did. And I was even embarrassed. So like, here's my quick little of how I'm coming to talk to him. I'm talking about. There is an independent small press in Richmond, Virginia called Valancourt Books. And they have their stuff on Amazon. And I was looking for Victorian Christmas ghost stories because I wanted to put ghosts back in Christmas like the Victorians used to. And I was reading about that and I was like, there's got to be books, right? So go online and I see there's 4 volumes now. So I bought myself the first one, picked that up, got to it. And I saw, it said Valancourt Books and had a really cool, I should have brought it down with me. I have the other ones though. Had a really cool cover. And I was like, well, what's this press? So again, go check them out, find their Instagram page, start to follow them. And right, specifically even, this is their like line from their website, is they specialize in the rediscovery of rare, neglected, and out of print fiction. And it says, one of our specialties is Gothic horror and supernatural fiction, a broad category that also includes weird, occult, sinister, macabre, and fantastic works, and encompasses both 18th and 19th century classics as well as modern works. And I even took a screenshot because when I was on their website, I loved when you scroll down and they have a category that says their catalog. And I just want to read this because I love it. Because it just, if there was ever something that spoke to all of us and our friends, it would be the screen when you open their catalog and it says Gothic and Romantic, Victorian and Edwardian, horror and science fiction, LGBT literature, literary fiction, international series, vintage chills and thrills. And I was like, well, that's everything we love. And I got so excited. So I started to, poke around and check them out. And they have a series called Monster She Wrote. And so far it's 4 books. And it's all, the Monster She Wrote book is the same thing, like a version of that bigger one that you just said, the 1,000 Women in Horror, of female horror authors that we might know or may not know, and a collection of that. And then there was one book that's Women of Weird Tales from the Weird Tales publications that, Lovecraft and Robert Bloch and all of them are famous for being in, but there are a lot of other female writers who were in Weird Tales and didn't get their due. So that's like the first one I have is this collection from Women of Weird Tales, and I picked that up. And I love, another thing about this is I love the cover and the visual. So that was the first thing that drew me to it, because we eat with our eyes first. And this just had like this really awesome, I felt like I was looking at something from maybe the 60s or 50s that you'd find, I think I said this to you guys, you'd find in like your cool aunt's house or some like fun relative in like an old dusty shelf. And you were like, oh man, I want to read this. I want to pick this up and check it out. So I picked that up for myself. And then again, following them, I learned about this author. Her name is Lisa Tuttle. And I learned about her because there was a quote pulled from one of my favorite authors, Neil Gaiman, extolling her virtues of like a 50-year career of writing really great, creepy horror and science fiction. And I was just like, I love Neil. I know him. I don't know this woman. And, again, feeling a little bummed that I don't know these female names, but here's her book. And again, the ones in the series, they all have like similar looks and they kind of go together that way. And I love it. And this is The Dead Hours of the Night. And this is a collection of her short stories. So Lisa Tuttle is totally new to me. She was born in the US from Texas, but then in 1981, she went and lived in the UK and she's been operating out of there ever since. And she writes science fiction, fantasy, horror. She's got a dozen novels, 7 short story collections, and some nonfiction titles. And there's also a reference book on feminism called the Encyclopedia of Feminism. that she's has. I was like, whoa, they got to pick that up too. And she's edited anthologies and reviews book publications. And she even collaborated with George R.R. Martin on his novel Windhaven. So that was from 1981. So they're friends and they've worked together. She's been like an active in the sci-fi fandom since she was like a young kid in high school. She wrote for her high school sci-fi magazine. Here we go. She founded and edited it. That's what the Houston Science Fiction Society's fanzine, Matham, in her high school. So she created that. And then she went to Syracuse University in New York, and she wrote for their university's fanzine, which is called Tomorrow and ... So a lot of her stories focus on gender issues, and includes a lot of like strong-willed women that question their identities. Her science fiction work's been associated with feminist science fiction. That's from the Cambridge Guide to Women's Writing in English. And there's a lot of elements of like dramatized aspects of human, and specifically like the female condition that she works in there. So a lot of them are female-based stories and about, women's bodies, or how other people see women's bodies, or how, women see themselves and what they're going through. So I've read a couple stories in here and I love it. And it's just, nothing's really long. These are all pretty short. And it's kind of like a quick little taste of, she's got a really brilliant creative mind where she can really go there and create like a really interesting, different space. Something really, there's original stuff in here. There's some stories that kind of feel a little familiar with a woman who's maybe trapped or struggling, but a different spin on that. Mm-hmm. I've really enjoyed them. I've read 4 or so. And then I ended up going back to the website and I was like, well, I need to get a novel. And they had a couple of things. And there was one that was called Familiar Spirit from 1983. Because Valancourt wants to bring back all these different, books that were hard to get, and that's their big thing, is to put them in print. So I picked up a novel, and that's coming to me soon, and I'm excited about that.
Very nice.
And, I wrote down the little description of Familiar Spirit was Sarah and Brian were the perfect couple until Brian fell in love with someone else. Sarah's life was shattered. Sarah was shattered. Miraculously, Sarah soon had a new lover. One who came to her in her dreams, who promised her anything she wanted in return for a small favor, an innocent sacrifice. Anything she wanted, even Brian, for her own forever. In exchange, all Jade wanted was Sarah's soul. So I'm excited to check out what that's going to be like for her, like, bigger expanding universes that she writes. Yeah. But it's just, I felt bummed out to not have known about her sooner, but excited now to jump into this world with her stuff, and then to see, like I said, almost 50 years of a career, seeing what else I could find. And then there were, just like the Weird Tales one, the different women in here, I'm like, who else am I going to learn about and check out? So I wanted to make it a point to continue down that road, not to maybe put a few of those guys I always read a little off to the side for now, and to open this up, especially now for women. I was like, I need to give them the time and the chance, because their voices weren't heard in my head. And I thought it was kind of well-versed, but then you find out like how much you've missed, or how much you didn't hear about or learn. And so I'm excited about that.
That's like we talked about marketing before, and, targeting. And I think the reason we didn't know about so many women authors that were out there is because the money was not spent to market them as well. I didn't prepare any. I was thinking my books were my movie and my book, but I should probably throw out.
Yes.
I'm going to throw out a couple of, just off the top of my head, authors that I've been lucky enough to not only find their works, but to meet them through, thankfully, the Scares of Care convention, because it is a author-centric convention. I've gotten to meet some really amazing women who are authors and enjoy their work. And off the top of my head, I would say Kelly Owen, Mary San Giovanni, Summer Cannon, C.V. Hunt, and Rachel Autumn Deering are all authors that I can recommend. They're all different types of horror out there, where Mary is more of a cosmic horror person. Kelly Owens she does a little bit of everything, I will say. There's some that are a little bit more thriller-ish, some are a little bit more supernatural. She's very good at kind of like jumping the gambit. Summer Cannon stuff's a little bit more extreme horror, which I really enjoy. Rachel Autumn Deering is quiet horror. I would say C.V. Hunt also is strange tales, weird tales, but she can get into the extreme sides of things as well. I like the kind of weird and absurdness of some of her stuff. She was on an episode of the show. If you guys have watched my Texas Chainsaw episode, that was my guest, was C.V. Hunt. Yes. So, and looking forward to, I've interviewed all of these women hopefully for future things. So just some names that they're out there. If you want to find out more, if you want to find out more women that you should be reading, we can follow that up. We can definitely do some more on that. So,
because this is almost just the start for me.
Yeah.
For, with Lisa, and now I'm forgetting, there's another book that I picked up with another female author from Valancourt, where they had a whole section of like, stuff that was from 80s and 70s that they're just reprinting now. And there was another female author about, trying to remember, it was like two girls lost in a labyrinth, and there was like, but it sounded way more creepy dangerous than the labyrinth I love. The picture's far off screen, but everybody knows me and Bowie. Yeah. So I loved the sound of that, and I was like, hey, put it in the basket, let's go. I was like, I'm excited to just like walk through this door and see who else I find. And if anyone else has anything they can recommend, like leave it in the chat or add us underneath so we could see.
Or definitely, I mean, you can always, I was going to say tweet, but you could also in the Facebook conversation that we can have from the link from this show too. So there's always ways we can keep it going.
I found her on Facebook and I started to follow her.
Oh, cool.
And I figured I would write her a little message maybe after this and be like, send her a link and be like, hey, I'm a new fan. I talked about you if you want to see this.
And I would say that's the best way that we can spread the word about authors that we, because I know I've tweeted at and had conversations with all the women that I'm reading right now, and it's wonderful to be able to say, look, world, I read this book and it's really good, and this is my way of saying make sure you read it. Yeah. So
I mean, support that independent press. I love the idea of them. I've just become like really enamored with them. Their Instagram's really great too. Go follow. Their books you can get through other booksellers, but I love just going to that website and buying it from there. There's something about that. It's like walking into a cool bookstore, which I kind of miss. There used to be an old bookstore, used books. Remember stores? Remember walking into
stores? Remember stores that didn't sell groceries?
Yeah. There were all these old bookstores down in that my friends and I used to love. And there was like one down the shore that I would go to with my friend, with Krissa, a lot of the times during the summer. And we would spend hours and just pick up things that looked cool. I miss that. That's what this reminded me. That's what these reminded me of. They were first just like things that look cool. And I'm like, I'm drawn in. I want to get to know more. So it's like a store where you don't know what you want, but everything's really neat, and just pick a few things without the musty smell, which I miss because I love the smell of the old book.
Yeah.
But,
it's that tactile experience.
Yeah. So that's kind of what that Valancourt site kind of feels for me. It's like as close as I can get to walking into like a cool bookstore where I know I'm going to like a lot of it. I don't know what anything is, and that's exciting. So that's why I'm really excited about these.
Cool. Well, sounds like a great recommend. I got to check them out too. So I think, unfortunately, like I said, we were missing one of our voices today.
I know.
We were hoping was going to be also very much part of our book conversation specifically. So
she's the book gal. I mean,
yeah. So, Melissa, we missed you tonight.
Yes.
And tune into Brook Reading podcast to learn more about books that you should read.
Go check out all her
doing
stuff.
A lot of that too.
Exactly. You'll get great recommendations.
Yeah. She's been doing a lot of interviews lately with first-time authors or new authors talking about their books. And I've been finding out some really fun sounding books through that show too. So that would be her recommends.
Female authors.
Yeah. Just go check that out. So,
we'll
she's here with us in spirit.
Brook Reading.
And we hope Shira's feeling better.
Yes.
And maybe next time we'll all be together. So
for the MCU chat later in the spring before May.
In the spring, and then we may have a chat coming up sooner than that.
Oh, yeah,
we might have a couple of chats before that. So
good, because I'm for it. I feel like everybody wants to see and hear us. So
yes, of course they do.
That's my theory.
That's why we have less viewers than we did a minute ago.
Whoops! Did I just?
No,
I think everyone left.
I think there's some people we hit their bedtime, but
okay.
But thank you to everybody. Thank you to all of you who toughed it out with us today and our unfortunate technical difficulties, but we got here.
Weirdness. Yeah, thank you. So I'm glad it worked because it was touch and go on this end for a bit, and I was like, no,
touch and go on this end too. And I'm gonna put it out there right now. I'm not sure if this show is gonna get archived because I have a feeling that light turned off at some point because of my signal issues. So we shall see. Hopefully. Yeah, we'll find out in about 10 minutes after I hit stop. This was an
exciting, fresh thing that everyone got to experience, a once-in-a-lifetime moment for everyone. Congratulations.
6 people got to hang out with us.
Oh, lucky, those lucky few.
And I think we know them because I see at least, okay, so we have Lisa, we have the Ferreras, we have Sean, and yes, Sean, we are going to talk MCU, just not tonight. We'll get there.
Don't worry.
You have to tune in for that because we want to hear what you have to say. So we have...
There's a reason why it has to be close to May, and you probably know. Come on.
Yeah, you totally know. Yeah. So half the people were in the chat. So you guys got to hear this wonderful discussion tonight that I don't know if anybody else will. So thank you for tuning in with us.
Thank you guys so much. It means a lot. It means a lot.
It really does.
For you to include me means so much, and I'm so happy to do it.
Always. I love the opportunity for us to do things together. I always, I love that.
This was us in college, but now we're just broadcasting it, and that's what I think is so special.
And I think it's awesome, and it's so great that we found a way to make it happen and do it again.
Yeah, exactly.
And thank you to Ed over there dealing with your technical difficulties.
Thank you for my producer husband. He just clapped. I don't know if you heard it.
No, I heard it.
Okay, good.
I think I heard him go get a sandwich before and come back down.
Yeah. Actually, I'm starving. I need to go get a snack.
So we're going to wrap it up right here, guys. And thanks. If no one else gets to see it, thank you to the 3 of you who did, or 4 of you who did.
Pleasure hearts.
We love you. Thanks, guys. And
thank you.
Good night, and we'll see you next time with the Horror Academic. Bye.